caught some clown on television claiming the Lakers rescued the league. Rescued the NBA? Please. The guy's a total joke, and deep down, he knows it. It all starts with Charles Barkley, who roasted him as a complete moron on a national broadcast, right down to Kevin Durant, who publicly branded his ex-teammate a quitter for taking the easy path. These icons didn't just bash Kendrick Perkins, they brought the proof, and the fallout is pure insanity. Sir Charles. Let's kick things off with the heavy hitter, the loudest, most explosive showdown in this entire beef. Because when Chuck starts venting, the entire basketball community shuts up to watch. On March 6th, 2025, TNT's flagship show was live. The feed was rolling. And Barkley, never one to bite his tongue, had finally reached his breaking point. The spark? Perk going on ESPN and boldly asserting that the Los Angeles Lakers had single-handedly salvaged the season by trading for Luka Doncic. For Barkley, sitting beside Shaq on a competing program, this wasn't actual hoops talk. It was just ESPN sticking to their usual script, ramming the Lakers and Warriors down our throats while ignoring the teams actually crushing the competition. So, the Hall of Famer, 11-time All-Star and legendary media personality, looked straight into the lens and let it rip. Saw some dummy on the screen saying the Lakers were the NBA's savior. Right. He's a total airhead, though he probably realizes it. But he wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. What's his name again? Shaq? Who are you on about? Kendrick Perkins. Oh, him. He claimed the Lakers, first off, they've had a solid 2 weeks. But saying they saved the whole season? Just look at what's happening here. Barkley is so heated he actually blanks on Perk's name for a second. That's exactly how much respect he has for that take. Once the name clicked, he made certain everyone knew his true thoughts. It's those clowns over on the other network. The ones we're apparently joining next year, that's all they ever mention. Listen closely, because I've got something to say. And believe me, I'm ready for all the heat. Barkley was coming straight for Kendrick Perkins. That line alone perfectly captures how ugly this situation had become. You guys are clueless because you're obsessed with the Lakers and Warriors 24/7. You're missing it. The Cleveland Cavaliers just ripped off 12 straight wins. Chuck wasn't just arguing about Los Angeles. He was calling out the entire biased culture at ESPN. The nonstop hype for big markets and GOAT debates, while elite squads like the top-ranked Cavs and the Oklahoma City Thunder get zero credit. In Barkley's world, Perkins was the face of that narrow-minded coverage. And this is where the drama spikes, because Perk hit back on X almost instantly. He threw a jab at Barkley that was the opposite of a surrender. He essentially labeled Chuck a fossil. He dared him to stay tough in person, repping Beaumont while promising to take on any challenger who steps up. That 409 is the area code for the Beaumont, Texas region. Perk made it clear that this clash was way bigger than some scripted television drama. This was deep-seated and definitely wasn't their first time clashing. For years, Chuck mocked Perk's desperate takes, until Perk finally retaliated in April 2024. He called out the entire crew, including Barkley, for clearly skipping out on the actual game film. Consequently, by March 2025, all that pent-up frustration finally reached its boiling point. Then came a shocker on June 3rd, 2025, right after the tension peaked. Appearing with Stephen A. Smith, Perkins officially buried the hatchet. He announced to everyone that his feud with the legendary Charles Barkley was over. He basically admitted the whole conflict had become pointless. Chuck reportedly gave the thumbs up in a chat with Michael Wilbon, raising questions about this sudden truce. The truth is, both stars were preparing to share the spotlight on ESPN. Turns out, throwing insults is bad for business when you're drawing checks from the same company. If Chuck was the lead, Shaquille O'Neal was the heavy hitter backing him up. The way Shaq and the TNT squad handled Perkins in April 2024 was legendary. It was the kind of television gold that gets replayed for a lifetime. It kicked off when Perkins hit the Michael K. Show to blast the TNT legends. He claimed Shaq and the whole crew were basically ignoring the film and the fundamentals. Perk argued they cared more about being funny than actually studying the game. He trashed their playoff analysis, especially about the Knicks, as totally uninformed and low effort. For the Big Diesel, a guy whose entire brand is being the most powerful man in any building, hearing that shade from a former bench player didn't sit right at all. To Shaq, Perkins was just a pest needing to be squashed. On April 23rd, 2024, the TNT set became a comedy stage. Producers rolled out a heavy bag featuring a picture of Kendrick Perkins taped right to it. They even photoshopped a gap in his teeth just to make it more embarrassing. While Chuck boxed, Shaq broke out a super soaker and blasted the bag with water. Then they started swinging as the entire studio erupted in hysterics. They joked about exterminating pests and told the roach to get lost. Chuck was leading the charge, and Shaq was loving every second of the roast. Every hit was a loud reminder of who holds the real power in sports media. They were essentially telling the world that Perkins was just a minor irritation. Perk tried to laugh it off on social media at first with a few emojis. He claimed Chuck wasn't prepared for the smoke he was bringing. But by June 2024, he admitted that being called a pest actually stung. The punching bag was one thing, but that specific roach label crossed the line. He questioned the term, noting its harsh connotations within their community. That was Perkins flagging the disrespect, showing the jokes had turned into a personal insult. Despite the public grin, he was clearly feeling the heat. Meanwhile, Shaq took the feud over to Instagram to double down, dropping a reel of Perk's worst playoff games with a sarcastic, "Wow, Kendrick, you really nailed me. I don't watch the game, I am the game. Basically, you think I don't know hoops? Man, I'm the soul of this sport. Big Diesel, thanks for the visit. Can't wait to join forces on the team next season." That moment right there, Shaq storming the pre-final show on ESPN perfectly captured the peak of their beef. Shaq wasn't just throwing shade from the sidelines anymore. He rolled up to Perk's actual desk just to talk that talk face to face. Funnily enough, once Barkley buried the hatchet in June 2025, with both crews combining their basketball broadcasts under the ESPN banner, those roach disses faded out since the target and the hunters are now roommates. No big apology or handshake with Shaq, just radio silence and a shared office space. KD. Out of every feud here, nothing hits quite as hard or feels as personal as the fallout between Kendrick Perkins and Kevin Durant. We aren't talking about two randoms trading insults across the internet. These guys were brothers, day one teammates who shared the same locker room, postseason battles, and that deep connection forged in the trenches, only to see it go up in smoke during a public social media war. Perk landed in Oklahoma City through a 2011 trade, playing the veteran enforcer for young stars like KD, Russ, and Harden. That bond was the real deal. They were actually family. But when KD ditched the Thunder for the Warriors in July 2016 after choking away a 3-1 lead, Perk saw it as a knife in the back to their shared legacy, and he shouted it from every rooftop on live TV. Long before their 2020 social media clash, a 2018 incident paved the way for the chaos. During the finals, Warriors against the Cavs, Perk, who was rocking a Cleveland jersey then, crashed a post-game interview while KD was answering questions. He stuck his head in and threw up both middle fingers right at the Slim Reaper. Cameras caught KD mouthing some serious profanity back at him. No regrets, no excuses, just pure ugly tension between two guys who were once inseparable. Fast forward to January 10th, 2020, when Perk sparked one of the biggest social media blowouts the basketball world has ever seen. He posted that Russ was officially the greatest player to ever represent Oklahoma City, crowning him Mr. Thunder. KD, the man with 2 rings and 2 finals MVPs, wasn't having any of it. He clapped back by trashing Perk's actual on-court performance, zeroing in on his abysmal 2013 playoff run against the Grizzlies. Oh yeah, our big man Kendrick Perkins put up a massive 2 points and 3 boards that series. Real heart of a champion there, he mocked, and then the gloves truly came off. Perk hit back, man, cut it out. You pulled the softest move ever, choking a 3-1 lead, then joining the guys who beat you. Real champion spirit you got there. KD fired right back, mocking how little Perk actually contributed on the floor. That was the moment Perkins let fly with the most iconic insult of their entire feud. Imagine grinding that hard only to hop on a 73-9 bandwagon. Real talk, that title doesn't even feel legitimate. You basically took the easy road out. A few months later, Durant sat down for a raw conversation on the All the Smoke podcast. For the first time, he really opened up about how deep that betrayal actually cut. See, when Perk went there, and you guys get it, as former pros, you know how that hits. Don't let the media bait you into saying, "Look, He wasn't finished yet. Spot on. We actually went back and forth for a minute because I called him out on Twitter. He fired back, and I saw everyone thirsty for drama, so I just slid into his DMs. Hey, Brian, I've got your digits, so let's just handle this man to man. Durant was convinced Perkins knew exactly what he was doing when he dubbed Russ the ultimate Thunder icon. It was a calculated, messy move meant to trigger an Oklahoma City fan base that had been trying to pick sides for years. It's obvious, right? Look, you can give Russ all the flowers you want, but you don't have to trash me in the process. It feels like nowadays, to love one, you have to hate the other. Even as recently as February 2025, Katie was still firing back at Perkins' takes. This time, it was after Perk claimed on NBA Today that he was the actual leader of those Thunder teams. Durant didn't hold back, calling it the most delusional thing he'd seen all week. Now, let's talk LeBron James. There is a specific kind of pain that comes with watching a friendship die slowly, not in one big explosion, but through 1,000 tiny cuts. That is the tragic fallout of Kendrick Perkins and LeBron James. And from Perk's perspective, they'd still be boys if he had just kept his mouth shut about Bronny. These two were brothers in arms in Cleveland during the 2014-15 season, and that bond stayed rock solid for years after they stopped playing together. Perk was the loudest voice calling LeBron the greatest of all time on national TV. He was LeBron's ultimate shield whenever the critics came circling. They were genuine friends, the kind of brotherhood that survives trades, retirement, and the media grind. Then came the Bronny James era. In 2024, ESPN was obsessed with his draft stock, his run at USC, and that McDonald's All-American nod. And Perk, with a live mic and a job to do, started asking the hard questions that LeBron considered off-limits. Look, we don't see many kids making the McDonald's game while averaging only 14 points. I'm telling you, I don't think he was even the best player in California. I'm not trying to hate on the kid, I'm just giving you the cold, hard facts. Then he made it even more personal by bringing up a baller from his own neck of the woods in Beaumont, Texas, who'd been outperforming Bronny all year with 30 points a night, only to get snubbed for the All-American spot. There's this young kid from my hometown in the same class as Bronny, a kid named Wesley Yates. He was putting up 30 a game, easy. But right as the nomination window opened, the politics took over. Sure, Bronny leaped past him, but this dude's dropping 30 a night. He's actually held the lead for the whole ride. LeBron didn't call the media or hop on Twitter, he just hit unfollow. It was a quiet, lightning-fast move that spoke absolute volumes. As a major heavyweight in the sporting world, King James erased Kendrick Perkins from his online circle entirely. The world saw it instantly. Perk fired back on First Take with his usual grit. Look, not even Jesus had every fan. I am doing just fine. Then he dropped a truth bomb so relatable it is rare for any big sports talking head. He straight up blocked LeBron's cell. Once he cut me off online, I shut him out of my phone too. Matching energy. LeBron went ghost, so Big Perk stayed low-key right back. I dropped the ball with the press, Russ, KD, and LeBron, but I had to address this. Catch my drift? These spots get seriously messy, man. Remember that McDonald's talk? LeBron caught feelings because we started discussing Bronny, getting into the whole draft situation. You feel me? During an October 2025 podcast, Perk finally spilled the beans, confessing that the fallout with LeBron actually stung quite a bit. Both are incredibly stubborn, and he is not chasing a fix yet, though he hopes a future run-in could finally break the ice and get them talking again. Zack Randolph. Until now, these beefs lived on social media or inside a recording booth. This specific clash, this went down in the tunnels and right on the hardwood. It is where tough guys handle business, and one slip-up changes the whole season, turning a standard game into a full-blown NBA inquiry. The date was November 14th, 2012. Memphis rolled into OKC to face the Thunder on their home turf. Both squads unleashed their toughest grinders. In this corner, Zach Randolph, Zebo, the two-time All-Star and heavy-hitting interior force. He embodied the Grizzlies' grit and grind soul, treating every matchup like a backyard brawl. Facing him stood Kendrick Perkins, the seasoned OKC big man and defensive wall, a designated tough guy signed specifically to ensure the Thunder never got bullied. As the clock ticked under 2 minutes in the final frame, Marc Gasol got a bucket on Perk, causing Randolph to go off. His chirping was so loud everyone heard it, and Perk was not having it. They came face to face. Refs tossed both guys, leading them out through different exits. Neither one was finished yet. Then things hit the tunnel. Randolph ditched his locker room, stormed through the doors, and invaded the Thunder's space, stepping to Perkins once more. Guards had to jump in before a real fight broke out, sparking a league probe. 5 days down the line, the NBA slapped Randolph with a $25,000 fine just for that tunnel ambush. Perk walked away scot-free, while Zebo kept it real on the Chris Vernon show with a Raw. Get ready for one of the wildest post-game rants ever recorded as a pro ball player breaks down his run-in with Perkins. The truth is, I never actually laid hands on the guy. I'm just praying to recover a portion of that cash. Attempting to claw back that $25,000 penalty they slapped on me for walking through those double doors. Stepped into their territory, I suppose, but I definitely got the message. No repeats here, I'm not flushing another $25,000 down the drain. Questioned if he could take Perkins in a scrap, Randolph stayed cool, claiming his fist game was top tier. I can really scrap, man. My striking is legit. Kenyon Martin. Perkins isn't exactly the type to just sit there and take disrespect quietly. So when an ex-all-star like Kenyon Martin stepped up, a guy known for the same gritty defensive grind as Perk labeled him a weak link, Big Perk fired back with a mountain of evidence so precise it would leave a tax auditor stunned. Everything went down in the middle of May, 2025. Martin guest starred on Gil's Arena, the show hosted by Gilbert Arenas, and while debating the current OKC roster against the 2012 finals team, he dubbed Perkins a total drag on that squad. Logic leaned on today's stats, claiming Perk's failure to stretch the defense or guard mobile players would be a disaster against the high-speed 2025 lineup. Martin called it a breakdown. To Perkins, it felt like a direct shot at every sacrifice he made for that jersey. 3 days afterwards, Perkins let loose on the Road Trippin' podcast. He kicked things off by highlighting the one massive detail he felt Martin totally overlooked. OKC never sniffed the finals before his arrival since they couldn't get past those Lakers teams led by the Twin Towers, Andrew Bynum and Pau Gasol. Then he dissected the film. Postseason by postseason, every single assignment. From locking up Dirk Nowitzki in the conference finals, to neutralizing Pau Gasol and Andrew Bynum when facing L. To going head-to-head with Tim Duncan during that San Antonio run, even picking up Tony Parker or Manu Ginobili when the lineups got small and the pressure was on. Perk described himself as a player who abandoned his own points, ditched the personal limelight, and threw away the box scores that would have polished his legacy. All so Katie and Russ could truly shine. Martin stayed quiet after that road trip and clapback, and the beef seems to have cooled since then. Look, Serge Ibaka knows there are certain boundaries in pro ball you just don't breach. You never doubt a peer's hustle or challenge his moral character. And you definitely don't, after spending 4 seasons in the same trenches, grinding through playoff wars and being his brother on the court, crack jokes about his real age based on some nasty, tired tropes. Yet, Perkins blew past every one of those limits on December 26, 2022, while hosting First Take on ESPN and looking back at that young 2012 Thunder team. Remember the narrative back then? KD is just 23, Russ is barely 22, Harden's 22, Serge Ibaka's 21, though he was likely pushing 30 back then. Since we're all aware of how some guys tend to fudge the numbers on their birth certificate, let's move past that. Kendrick Perkins, a kid from Beaumont, Texas, sat on a national stage and fed into one of the trashiest, most toxic tropes in the league. He pushed the narrative that African and overseas pros habitually lie about their birth years. This time, he took aim at Serge Ibaka, a guy he shared a bench with for 4 whole seasons. A guy who was clearly 21 or 22 during that 2012 finals run. Serge was born in 1989, his age was never a mystery. Ibaka didn't just snap back, he dismantled him with precision. It was a calm, articulate, and absolutely brutal takedown. "Attack my game all you want," Serge said. "That's fair play. But making up rumors for clout? That's where I draw the line. It's a slap in the face to me and every African athlete fighting these baseless claims." Ibaka then dropped the hammer, claiming Perkins only has a career because he snitched on his teammates. threw shade at KD and Westbrook behind closed doors while they were playing together. He accused Perk of taking that same disloyal energy into the broadcast booth. "You were never a real leader," Serge posted. "You just traded the locker room for the camera. I get that people have bills to pay and mouths to feed, but you're living proof that not everyone can do it with a shred of class." Perk eventually offered an apology. "We'll show you that train wreck in a second. I'm let down, but I can't say I'm shocked," Serge continued. "You built your career by betraying the locker room code and spreading lies about brothers like Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook." Perkins' response was the definition of a non-apology. "My bad if you're sensitive. It was just a joke," he said, before immediately doubling down. He told Serge to toughen up and threatened to leak some real dirt from the OKC days. It was the kind of sorry that actually makes the situation 10 times worse. The two haven't spoken a word to each other since. Then there's Russell Westbrook. Of all the bridges Perk has torched in the media, the Russ fallout hurts the most because it didn't end with a loud headline or a viral clip. It was a quiet, private break that only came to light years down the road when Perkins finally admitted on a podcast in October 2025 that the friendship was officially dead. These two were ride or die, genuinely close. Teammates in Oklahoma City from 2011 to 2015. That's the kind of bond you forge in the trenches of playoff runs and title chases. When Perk called Russ the greatest player in Thunder history back in January 2020, it wasn't just a take, it was a public show of loyalty. He was protecting his brother. But around 2022 or 2023, Perk went on TV and claimed he was hearing from various NBA front offices that Westbrook needed to change his whole game. He said Russ had to cut the turnovers and high-volume shooting or he'd be out of the league. Perk framed it as tough love from a concerned friend. Westbrook, however, didn't see a friend, he saw a betrayal. "It cost me some real brothers. I lost my connection with Russ, KD, and Bron. I just couldn't stay quiet. You feel me on that?" Perk called the breakup nasty, noting their wives even got dragged into it. His wife and Nina Westbrook traded some real ugly calls and texts, shifting a simple hoops debate into a full-blown personal war. It was over after that, Perk admitted. By October 2025, when Kendrick dropped these truth bombs, Russ was still a free agent, watching from the outside. Perk noted his old warning proved right, which has to be a heavy burden. To caution a man you loved like a brother, lose that bond over the truth, then watch it actually happen. Perk says they haven't spoken in years, Russ hasn't said a word. That silence is the loud answer. For Kendrick, who's admitted to losing Russ, KD, and LeBron all at once, that's a weight no paycheck can fix. Then there's Steph. We're not ending on some bitter multi-year feud, or a ruined friendship, or even a messy Twitter spat. We're ending on one specific moment, 45 seconds of hoops that show what happens when you poke Steph Curry. June 3rd, 2018, Game 2 of the Finals, the Warriors versus the Cavs. The vibes at Oracle were off the charts. Steph was already on a heater, hitting from everywhere. Late in the third, he hoisted a prayer from the corner. His momentum sent him flying back, off the court and straight into a suited-up Kendrick Perkins on the bench, who was just sitting there with his legs out. The Golden State guys, especially Draymond and Clay, thought Perk tried to trip him, which could have wrecked Steph's ankle. Steph didn't back down, he went right at Perk. They talked some trash before the suits stepped in. Perk has always maintained he did nothing wrong, saying he was just minding his business when Curry crashed into him. "I don't know the issue," he told ESPN back in 2020. He claimed he was just relaxing and insisted he'd never try to take another player out. Whether you buy it or not, Steph's response told the whole story. Curry went absolutely ballistic in the fourth, going 5 for 5 from deep to turn a nail-biter into a blowout. The Warriors swept them, and months later, when Steph finally addressed it, he basically said he took it as fuel and ran with it. Steph even kept the receipts from that first take clip last summer. "You really sat there on national television. You and Dominique Foxworth actually argued that Steph Curry wouldn't even be a title contender for the next 4 years." Steph took Perk's bold claims to heart, using that dismissal of the Warriors' future as pure motivation. It's what drove his historic 2022 championship run. Man, these athletes hear everything. Right, Big Perk? Look, first of all, I love that they're watching. It's honestly poetic how Big Perk, a guy famous for sparking debates, became the exact fuel Steph needed. This isn't like those other toxic stories, though. There's zero bad blood or ruined friendships here. No endless drama, just an icon turning a hot take into rocket fuel. Now Perk's skepticism is forever part of the legend he tried to doubt.